After just 17 hours without sleep, you are legally too impaired to drive a car. Your brain, after 24 hours without sleep, is identical to a drunk brain on a scan. That is not a metaphor. That is what neuroscientists actually measure in controlled studies. Sleep deprivation is catastrophic, yet millions of people do this every single week, convinced they are handling it just fine. Here is what nobody tells you. There is a specific threshold, a number of days without sleep, beyond which the structural damage to your brain may never fully reverse. One person pushed terrifyingly close to that threshold. A 17-year-old boy from San Diego who wanted to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. What happened to him, and what scientists discovered about his brain in the decades that followed, changed everything we thought we knew about sleep and recovery. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what your body goes through, hour by hour, day by day, when you stop sleeping. And you will understand why the world record for sleeplessness should never, ever be broken again. Because your brain is already dying. Sleep is the only thing keeping it alive. The first 24 hours, most people have pulled an all-nighter, stayed up through the night, powered through on coffee and determination. And most people survive to tell the story. So it cannot be that dangerous, right? Wrong, incredibly wrong. Here is what actually happens inside your body the moment you skip a night of sleep. Your brain begins accumulating a chemical called adenosine, a biological signal for sleep pressure. Think of it like a meter that fills up every hour you are awake, pressing harder and harder against the doors of consciousness. By hour 10, your reaction time is already measurably slower. By hour 17, your cognitive performance is equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. The legal driving limit is 0.08. You are already dangerously close. By hour 24, without sleep, your impairment equals being legally drunk. Your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for rational judgment and emotional regulation, begins to go offline. Small frustrations feel disproportionately enormous. Decisions that should be effortless become genuinely difficult. And here is the cruelest part of all. Your ability to accurately assess your own impairment is itself impaired. You feel like you are handling it. You are not. And what happens to your brain's self-assessment at the 36-hour mark makes this look completely harmless by comparison. Your brain lies. But here is the part that should genuinely alarm you. After 36 hours without sleep, most people do not feel as bad as they actually are. Many report feeling strangely alert, even focused, in a way that feels almost supernatural. That is not resilience. Delusion. Studies from Harvard Medical School show that after 36 hours of sleep deprivation, the brain regions responsible for self-assessment, the areas that tell you how well you are performing, are among the most impaired regions of all. So not only are you performing terribly, you genuinely believe you are doing fine. This is the confident incompetence that sleep deprivation creates. This is why surgeons who have been awake for over 30 hours are 170% more likely to make catastrophic errors during procedures, and often do not notice. It is why soldiers operating in sleep-deprived conditions make tactical decisions that seem perfectly logical in the moment, but are demonstrably flawed in review. Your brain has become its own enemy. Hit like and subscribe, because what comes next is even darker. We are just getting started, and if the way your brain lies to you is unsettling, wait until you hear what your own stress hormones are doing to your cardiovascular system while all of this is happening. Cortisol storm. Stop and think about this for a second. Your body was designed for one specific type of sleeplessness, survival emergencies, when a predator was chasing you through the dark, when your life was in genuine immediate danger. In those moments, your body floods itself with cortisol, the primary stress hormone, to keep you sharp and alive long enough to escape the threat. Now imagine your body triggering that exact same emergency response, but the predator is just the clock. Cortisol floods your body. After 36 to 48 hours without sleep, cortisol levels spike dramatically. Blood pressure climbs. Heart rate elevates. Inflammatory markers in your bloodstream rise to levels typically observed during physical injury. Your body is treating sleep deprivation as a genuine life-threatening emergency, because evolutionarily, prolonged sleeplessness once signaled exactly that. But sustained cortisol elevation in the modern world does not just keep you temporarily alert. Research published in the European Heart Journal found that people who consistently sleep fewer than 6 hours have a 48% higher risk of developing coronary heart disease and a 15% higher risk of stroke. One bad night of sleep is already attacking your cardiovascular system. Sleep is the best meditation. The silent assault on your heart is compounding in real time. But your immune system is experiencing an even more dramatic and immediate collapse. And the statistics are genuinely almost impossible to believe. Immune collapse. Now, what I am about to tell you sounds like a dramatic overstatement, but it has been demonstrated in multiple controlled clinical studies. After just one night of poor sleep, not even complete deprivation, just 4 or 5 hours instead of 8, the natural killer cells in your immune system drop by up to 70%. 70. Natural killer cells are the frontline forces your immune system deploys to identify and destroy cancer cells before they can form tumors and to neutralize viral infections before they can replicate. A 70% reduction from a single disrupted night. Researchers at the University of California, Berkeley found that men sleeping 5 hours or less consistently showed measurably lower testosterone and significantly altered hormonal profiles, equivalent biologically to aging approximately 10 years overnight. Missing one night of sleep ages your immune system by a decade. Nobel Prize-winning research into circadian biology confirmed that virtually every cell in the human body operates on a sleep-dependent repair cycle. Without that cycle, cellular damage accumulates. DNA repair mechanisms fall behind schedule. Proteins begin to misfold. Your immune system collapses. Your body simply stops fixing itself fast enough to keep pace with normal daily damage. But if you think what is happening to your immune system is alarming, what sleep deprivation does to the actual architecture of your memories is something that should keep every student, every professional, and every ambitious person awake at night. Ironically, memory erased. Here is something most people genuinely never consider. Every memory you have, every skill you have ever learned, every face you recognize, every fact you can recall right now, was consolidated into long-term storage while you were unconscious, while you were asleep. Sleep is not rest. It is when your brain permanently saves everything you learned that day. During deep slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, your hippocampus replays the events of the day and transfers them to cortical long-term memory. Miss that process, and those memories do not become hazy or distorted. They simply do not form. They are gone, permanently. But the connection between sleep and memory runs even deeper than most people realize. During sleep, your brain activates the glymphatic system, a dedicated biological waste clearance network that pumps cerebrospinal fluid through brain tissue, flushing out toxic proteins that have accumulated during waking hours. One of those proteins is beta amyloid, the same compound that accumulates in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. A single night of sleep deprivation measurably increases beta amyloid levels in the living human brain. Each night when I go to sleep, I die. And the next morning when I wake up, I am reborn. That is not just poetry. That is literally what your neurochemistry performs each night. Sleep determines whether you develop dementia decades from now. And at 72 hours without sleep, what happens to your perception of reality itself is something that has no business occurring in a waking human being. Hallucination zone. Now forget everything I just described about gradual cognitive decline. Because at 72 hours without sleep, your brain enters territory that has no business existing outside of a psychological horror film. The hallucinations begin, and they are completely indistinguishable from reality. Documented subjects describe seeing insects crawling from the walls, hearing voices calling their names from empty rooms, feeling phantom presences standing directly behind them. In one clinical research case, a participant became fully convinced that the lead researcher was poisoning the water supply. This is not fragility or instability. This is your brain desperately recreating the REM state it has been denied. It enters a partial dream state while you remain technically awake. Your subconscious intrudes on your waking experience with complete sensory fidelity. But even more immediately dangerous is what happens in microdoses during this phase. Your brain begins forcing microsleeps, involuntary complete shutdowns lasting 1 to 2 seconds. without your knowledge or consent. Traveling at highway speed during a 2-second microsleep means covering the length of 2 football fields with no one at the wheel. Your brain will find a way to sleep, whether you choose to allow it or not. The only question is whether it selects a safe moment or a catastrophic one, and what extended sleep deprivation does to your physical organs. Your body's actual structural integrity is something scientists only truly grasped from an experiment that no ethics board would ever approve today. Body breaks down. Let me pause here, because what I am about to describe changes the entire picture. Most people assume sleep deprivation is fundamentally a brain problem, a cognitive fog, a mood issue, a focus problem. The physical body will be fine, right? Wrong. In the 1980s, researchers at the University of Chicago conducted a series of experiments that produced results so disturbing they were initially questioned by the broader scientific community. Rats were kept in continuous enforced wakefulness. Within days, something strange began happening to their bodies. Organs began to fail. Sores appeared on their skin that refused to heal. Their fur began falling out in patches. Core body temperature fluctuated wildly despite all attempts to regulate it. Then their organs began shutting down in sequence. Every single rat kept in total sleep deprivation died within 2 to 3 weeks. Not from an identifiable disease, not from starvation. They died because without sleep, every regulatory system in the body loses its capacity for coordination simultaneously. Pain sensitivity in sleep-deprived humans increases dramatically, not simply because the brain filters pain signals less effectively, but because inflammatory processes that should resolve during sleep are allowed to compound unchecked night after night. Without sleep, your body cannot run its essential repair and maintenance cycle. Temperature regulation collapses, metabolic systems misfire, the immune barrier deteriorates, and somewhere in documenting this total systemic breakdown, science encountered a disease so rare and so precise in its horror that it forced a complete reassessment of what sleep actually is. Fatal insomnia. Here is where the story takes a genuinely dark turn. Imagine a disease in which you simply stop being able to sleep, not because of anxiety or racing thoughts, not because of medication or environmental disruption, because the specific region of your brain responsible for initiating sleep, the thalamus, has been physically destroyed by a misfolded protein. That disease is called fatal familial insomnia. Fewer than 200 families worldwide carry the genetic mutation, and it is one of the most thoroughly documented demonstrations of what the complete removal of sleep does to a human being in real time. There is no treatment, no sedative can reach it, no surgery can stop it. You are awake forever. The progression is precise and merciless. It begins with mild insomnia, easily dismissed. Then the insomnia becomes total and absolute. Within months, hallucinations arrive, then panic attacks, then progressive dementia as the brain physically deteriorates, then death. There are no exceptions, no survivors recorded, no treatments that have shown any effectiveness. Sleep is not optional. The disease exists as nature's most extreme and unambiguous demonstration of what the rat experiment suggested. You cannot live without sleep. Your body will dismantle itself to prove it. To sleep, perchance to dream. Fatal familial insomnia shows the absolute biological flaw. But what about the ceiling? What is the maximum a healthy human brain can endure? And what happens when someone actually tried to find out? The 11-day record. If you thought that was disturbing, you are absolutely not ready for this. In January 1964, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner from San Diego decided to break the world record for staying awake. His motivation was a science fair project. He had no idea he was about to conduct the most consequential voluntary sleep deprivation experiment in human history. Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days and 25 minutes straight in 1964. That is 264 continuous hours. 11 full days without a single second of sleep. His deterioration was documented in real time by Stanford sleep researcher Dr. William Dement. The progression was methodical and terrifying. Day 2 could no longer track moving objects with his eyes. Day 4, first hallucination, held a full conversation with a street sign. Day 6, Slurred speech and near-total short-term memory collapse. Day 9, could not complete sentences. Thoughts simply stopped mid-word. Day 11, had to be physically guided between rooms, essentially catatonic. Then he slept, 14 hours and 40 minutes in a single unbroken stretch. He woke up claiming to feel completely fine. The media celebrated it as a triumph of human willpower, but the research that followed in the decades after Randy Gardner's record, that is where the true story of what he actually did to himself begins. And what scientists found is the answer to the question I raised at the very beginning of this video. Comment sleep debt if you have ever treated sleep as something you could just catch up on, or sleep is fine if you still believe it. The recovery myth. Now, what I am about to tell you is the direct answer to the question I opened with, the answer to whether there is a point of no return. Randy Gardner woke up after 11 days saying he felt fine. The media moved on. The story became a legend about human endurance, but Randy Gardner later developed severe chronic insomnia, a condition that reportedly plagued him for years after the experiment. His brain did not simply forget what had been done to it. Never. Research from the University of Pennsylvania has demonstrated that while you can recover some cognitive performance following acute sleep deprivation, certain functions, particularly sustained attention, processing speed, and emotional regulation, show measurable deficits for weeks following even short periods of chronic sleep restriction. But the deeper truth is structural. Brain imaging studies of chronically sleep-deprived individuals show actual measurable volume reduction in the hippocampus, the memory center, and altered gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex. You cannot repay a sleep debt that has been building for years in a single weekend. These are not just functional impairments. These are physical changes to the architecture of your brain. The threshold I mentioned at the start, it appears to be somewhere around the 10 to 11 day mark. The zone Randy Gardner entered, and that researchers now refuse to sanction anyone else entering. The most radical act in the modern world may simply be sleeping 8 hours without guilt. Sleep is not downtime. It is the only state in which your brain can be fully itself. What we have uncovered today is not merely fascinating biology. It is a warning system your body has been transmitting for years. In every groggy morning, every afternoon fog, every night you chose screens over sleep and told yourself you would be fine. Sleep is the foundation. Every memory you treasure was forged while you were unconscious. Every immune response that protected you from illness was coordinated in the dark. Every emotional wound you processed and filed away. Sleep did that. The person who runs on 5 hours is not a productivity warrior. They are running a biological deficit that compounds with every passing week, quietly reshaping the physical structure of their brain in ways that may never be fully reversed. Sleep is the golden chain that ties health and our bodies together. Randy Gardner's record still stands, not because no one has tried to approach it, but because researchers now refuse to sanction the attempt. They have seen the long-term data. They know that beyond 11 days, the question stops being when will you recover and starts being what will you lose permanently. Protect your sleep like it is the most important thing you own, because the evidence suggests it might be. If you made it this far, prove it. Comment glymphatic below. That word appears only once in this entire video, and only the people who were truly paying attention will know what it means. The truth is stranger than anything you could make up. If your brain is as blown as mine right now, hit subscribe, because next time it gets even crazier.